Hello, SWE. Welcome to our panel, Navigating Technical Careers, Open a World of Opportunity. I'm going to kick off by introducing the learning objectives of our panel. After attending, you'll be able to illustrate the value and impact that technical careers bring to your organization and to you personally. We also want you to be able to recognize the importance of technical employees being mentors, proteges, sponsors, and champions. And you'll be able to develop your career blueprint for competencies, qualities, and experiences for becoming a respected technical leader. So let's get started with introductions. I'd like to invite each of our panelists to introduce themselves, and to spice introductions up a little bit, how about everybody shares a favorite career or technical lesson learned? Claudine, could you please get us started today?
Sure. Good afternoon. My name is Claudine Phaire. I have degrees in aerospace and mechanical engineering, as well as an MBA. I am a Lockheed Martin Associate Fellow with specialties in systems engineering and airworthiness. So I specialize in aircraft design. My favorite technical lesson that I learned early on in my career is everything has to make sense. If it doesn't make sense, then there's something not aligned, and you have to be comfortable with asking questions until things make sense to you.
Hi, I'm Enikő Rózsa. I'm a distinguished engineer with IBM Consulting and IBM Research. I have about 30 years of experience in software engineering and specifically spent the last 15 years in conversational AI, where I hold several patents. The favorite technical lesson of my career is focus on your passion, focus on your customers, because it gives you a sense of accomplishment at the end of the day.
Blair, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Hi, everyone. You think after 2 years of COVID, I would have gotten better at that. But hi, everyone. Blair Korman. I'm a Senior Director of Digital Identification and Traceability at Johnson & Johnson Supply Chain. I bring with me almost 30 years of supply chain engineering experience. My favorite technical lesson is to be fearless. Do not let fear stop you from pursuing opportunities. If you shift your mindset to recognize failure as an opportunity, it can open you up to your full potential.
Hello, SWE. This is Seema Karande, and I'm a senior fellow at Dow in our plastics business. My education background is I have a bachelor's and master's degrees in chemical engineering from University of Oklahoma. And then also I have a MBA, a master's in business administration from Rice University. I have worked for Dow for over 34 years. And my area of expertise or specialties is in polymer material science and application development, especially in the polyolefins materials area. The technical lesson learned from my career is I say, do what you love and love what you do. It's about the passion for what you're doing.
Thank you for the introductions from our panel, and I'll introduce myself. I'm the moderator. My name is Michelle Johnson. I am a technical fellow at Lockheed Martin Space. I've been in the aerospace industry for 17 years, and my area of expertise is adhesive bonding and polymeric structures. As a fellow, I get to work across Lockheed Martin's businesses, focusing on our most difficult technical challenges. I get to support a broad customer base from NASA to the Department of Defense to commercial products. And I've led technical efforts from early R&D to full-scale production. My favorite career lesson learned is to be myself at work. I have learned to try not to conform to perceptions of how a female engineer acts, looks, and what her hobbies are, and really just to be myself and bring my true self to my job. So now we're going to transition into our Q&A. And I want to start by recognizing that every one of our panelists has an incredibly impressive resume of technical expertise. And I imagine that all of you have to have a lot of confidence to make it to this level. But I just want to explore the flip side of that really quick, and that's imposter syndrome. So could I get a quick show of hands of who here has experienced imposter syndrome? Yeah, so it's all of us, right? So let's talk about this. Have you ever felt that you don't belong at some point in your career? Claudine, you're on mute.
Thank you. As a undergraduate student, we had to take a coding class, and I hadn't taken coding in probably about 5 years before that. So I was taking Fortran, and it was hard for me. But one of my classmates was, always saying how easy it was for him, and it was cake. So I remember we happened to live in the same co-ed dorm. I remember the night before the test, I was studying, and he comes in from a party. And we go the next day to take the test, and we walk out, and we're talking about the test, and he's like, "Oh, that test was cake. That test was cake." And I felt like I didn't belong because I struggled through that test. It just so happened that I was fortunate enough to sit behind him when we got the test results back. And I got a whole letter grade higher than he did. And it was interesting because I know if I would have asked him what grade he would have gotten, he would not have told me the right answer or the correct answer. So right then and there, in my freshman year, I was so lucky to have this experience where I just saw that, things aren't always what they seem, right? People are going to present to you who they want to be and not necessarily who they are. So although I struggled, I had the growth mindset, and I was able to do really well. Unfortunately, I think he chose a different major after that year. But even now, when you look at, social media and you look at different things, I utilize that experience to teach me that, if I focus on myself, I'm going to be great. Because if I look at others and try to, try to keep up with other people, you may not be keeping up with what's actually factual.
What a great response. And I'll add, we all said we have experienced imposter syndrome. It's something I continue to work on even as I've climbed the technical ranks. So if it doesn't go away, you're certainly not alone. You just learn to deal with it better, right? All right, so let's transition into a more fun topic, which is our jobs. I want to know what y'all spend your time on day to day as a technical executive.
Yeah, Michelle, maybe I can address the question first. So the main areas as a senior fellow in my company, there's 3 main areas that I am responsible for, not only day to day, but also as my role. The first one really is, as a technical fellow, building the technology innovation pipeline that has both short and long-term implications. The second aspect is what I call business integration. Business integration is really monetizing the technology pipeline or opportunities that you have into business successes. I mean, we're talking about how do you make money from the pipeline that you have. As R&D is the growth engine for the enterprise. The third thing, which I have a lot of passion for, especially at the stage of the career that I'm in, which is it's all about the people. How do we build the next generation? It's about the future talent. It's acquisition, development, and also retention of our talent. Involves coaching, mentoring, and most importantly, sponsoring young and experienced talent. It's about creating succession plan for us and also for the technical talent that we currently have. So those are really the three main areas that I spend my time on.
Excellent answer. I think that sums it up. And I'll comment, I think that the stuff about business integration is really cool because it's a way that we get to kind of flex our disciplinary diversity or grow it. And that's pretty neat, right? So let's roll into our next question. What skills do you need to be a technical executive? Is it really all math and science?
Hi, Michelle. So I can jump in there. So I definitely say that's a big part of it, but no, it's not all math and science. And one of the ways that I stay grounded in the other things that aren't math and science is just understanding the customer that's behind what we're developing or what we're designing, what we're making, and who that is for. That really ties, I think, nicely to what we just heard as far as commercializing our tech ideas, right? Staying close to the business and remembering that all of the hard work that we're doing, there will be somebody on the other end using it. So don't forget about them. So the customer is very important.
I would like to add to what you said, Blair. I believe that the attributes of a technical executive sits on really 4 pillars. One is being trusted, then being able to connect with others, having the experience and knowledge, and having the drive and insight to push ideas forward. And each of these pillars require different skills. So to be trusted, you have to acknowledge the contribution of others. You have to be helpful, approachable, and take ethical and responsible decisions. Connecting with others requires being an active listener and share your expertise and be inclusive and collaborative. For the experience and knowledge, you have to have the breadth and depth of technical knowledge, of course, and it helps to have a proven track record to become a technical executive. And finally, for the drive and insight, it's really important that you have your technical viewpoint and that you are able to commit to succeed and have the courage to come forward with your own convictions and be a catalyst for technical change. And going back to the original thing, what I said, you have to be passionate about what you do and get right to the heart of the matter.
Yeah, I agree. And I would also add that you have to be innovative. So you don't always have to be the first one to create something, but you can leverage something that's being used in another industry for your application. And that's essentially what innovation is. So you want to be able to know how to integrate various technologies into your business. And you also want to have recognition outside of your company. For our Lockheed Martin's Technical Fellowship Program, you have to be part of a number of industry organizations and be moving the industry forward.
That's a great point, Claudine. Absolutely. And Enikő, it really resonated with me when you talked about building trust and building connections with people. I think that's a great takeaway, especially for our early career audience. Personally, something that I had a huge learning curve to climb early on in my career. All right, so we'll move to our next question. All our panelists started their career in STEM disciplines. But one of the big questions that we hear in the course of our own mentoring and coaching is about the option to go non-technical. Have any of our panelists ever considered taking on that non-technical career path?
It never really occurred to me to choose anything but technical. I've always been interested in STEM, where you have your creative thinking, analytical mind, and perseverance to push through decisions and ideas. And I believe that when trying to make headway as a woman in technology, your skills are your greatest asset. My road to become a technical executive has been definitely a learning curve. I didn't realize from the get-go that the technical path is often a lot more complex than the business path, particularly for promotions. And I'm glad that I went through with it. And I also firmly believe that we all need role models. I had hard time finding them at the beginning of my career. So I'm here to pass the legacy and pull others with me along the road. We all need someone who could see your ability to grow into and excel in a role, whether it's an ally, a role model, or a mentor or a sponsor. You need someone who can speak for you when you're not in the room, especially in the technical roles.
Yeah, I mean, similar as Enikő, I've always been in the technical function, but after being in my company for 20 years, and also at that point, I was already a fellow, I really wanted to do something a little bit different, and not necessarily from a technical perspective, but I wanted to gain business acumen, business knowledge. So I actually decided I was going to get an MBA, Master's in Business Administration, not because I wanted to become a business director, but really I wanted to pursue the MBA to elevate my business acumen and business credibility. Also to improve my leadership and communication skills. So I decided to get an MBA after being in my company for 20 years. And I tell you, reflecting back now, that was one of the best, both personal and career high experiences that I had. So even though I didn't really go on the business side, I decided to get an MBA and still stay in the technical side.
Yeah, I agree, and for me, I've always been had a number of interests. I've been interested in marketing. I've been interested in human resources, diversity and inclusion, business development, and I'm able to combine all of those interests as a technical leader. From a human resource standpoint, I'm able to, mentor upcoming engineers. I'm also able to do recruiting. Definitely check us out at the Lockheed Martin booth, where I'll be recruiting, and also marketing. We're able to look at what is new trends. Where does the industry need to go? What do we need to do to capture market share? And I'm able to leverage that interest as well as my technical acumen to enable the company to meet its revenue goals.
So what a great bunch of feedback from our panelists. And my takeaway is that it sounds like we don't necessarily have to choose between leaving the technical profession and all those other awesome things that we get to influence, like strategy and business. If we stay technical, we end up having access to all those things anyway. And we have this world of opportunities that's open to us, right? All right, so let's keep focusing on some of these non-technical, maybe mini roles or stretch assignments that we've served in, or maybe not so mini roles. Do we have any input from any of our panelists on how any of those roles might have helped you develop as a technical leader?
So Michelle, I can jump in here. So I spent 3 years working in customer service. And when I was approached about the role to say, hey, we have a role open, why don't you think about applying? It made me really nervous. And I had to dig deep, and it seems like, we do a lot of complex things, right, in STEM, and our technical careers are difficult in the work that we do and big. But I tell you what, that stepping outside of my comfort zone and moving into a non-technical role was transformational and shaping me into the future leader that I've become, and also keeping the customer at the center. You guys heard me a few minutes ago talking about, don't forget about the customer, but keeping that customer, the person using your product or service that you're developing, at the center of what I do every single day is I can't thank that opportunity enough that came along in a non-technical way to develop myself and to make me into the leader that I am today. So don't push them aside, and they'll probably make you feel uncomfortable when that role comes up, but they're very important to be a well-rounded individual as you get further along in your technical career, because you're going to go back. You'll always go back.
Yeah, I know that's such a great point, Blair, because I'll tell you my story here. So after being in my company for 22 years, and even after becoming a fellow, an opportunity came to me to have a role as an R&D director. And I decided to take the opportunity. This was a manager role. I had many direct reports and also leaders reporting to me. And I decided for the first time, after being in the company for that many years, I decided to become an R&D director. And one of the best experiences from a leadership perspective, portfolio management, and of course, people leadership as well. And I thoroughly enjoyed the role for about 8 to 9 years. And it was one of the best decisions that I made. And I really think about this from you don't need to have a linear career progression. You need to take those little side roads, because the side roads is really what's going to make you the leader that you are, and also gives you the experiences that you would never had if you didn't take those side roads. So absolutely, I always guide young people, don't always take that linear road in your career.
And I also have a tip for those who are asked to do a stretch role that they may not as passionate about. And sometimes we all are asked to do these, and that you yet to discover how it's going to contribute to your technical career. But every experience does indeed. So if your heart is into the technical parts, try to keep some technical deliverables for yourself, like engage with your team, keep up and drive the technical decisions. You have the ability to shape the project where your role is going. And every time you engage with the clients, you need soft skills, you need organizational and change leadership skills. So it's good to broaden your toolbox and just hone in on those skills as well.
Anything else from our panelists? Claudine, you're on mute if you had any other comments on that one.
No, I think that was great insight. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. So let's move on. Oh, before we move on, actually, I wanted to pull on Seema's thread about nonlinearity of your career. I'll tell you guys, 2 of the best career decisions I ever made were not for promotions. They were linear job or role changes, and they really enabled me to kind of stay in my salary grade, but take on something new and take some risks in my career that I might not have otherwise have taken. And those 2 moves are truly the platform on which I was able to develop into a technical executive. So great feedback, great point there. All right, so let's go to the next question. What stages have you gone through in your career, and how has that led to achieving the technical executive position?
Let me start with saying that technologies change, and you have to be a constant learner and adapt to new ones. But as far as your career goes, you kind of go through a sequence. At first, you are a fundamental contributor and you are asked what to deliver. You are told what's required. But eventually, you're going to be able to lead a small squad. You can participate in some research tasks. Maybe you are asked to research a specific topic, but you gain those skills. And it's important that you share your knowledge in communities and get entry-level certification, whether it's industry or in skills. But something that's acknowledged outside of your own work too, that yes, indeed, you building these skills. And at the next stage, you are going to be able to participate in more complex projects. Maybe you lead them, you can do technical reviews, and you really start to carve yourself this area where you are a subject matter expert. And you can develop your deep skills right in there. And this is the stage when you also start thinking about contributing to strategy, participating in client workshop, consulting, advising, and most importantly, mentoring. And this would be the best time, again, if you worked on the next level of certification. And then you reach a stage when you really can lead and engage with clients, and you explore new and emerging technologies, and you provide the thought leadership. You participate in the strategic planning, and you lead it. And then you share your knowledge more broadly. You go to conferences, you create patents, papers, and you really fully contributing and leading the business strategy development. And you are on the lookout for the next big idea, or maybe you just want to invent it.
And just to add to that, Enikő, I so understand and see, looking backwards, hindsight's 2020. One of the mentoring opportunities that I felt that I've had to be able to be a mentor over the years is encouraging technical folks to at least start this journey in a technical assignment. So we fight to get these degrees, and they're not easy to get. It's more difficult if you find your heart is in a technical career path. You should start at least at the beginning in a technical career. You can leave it and come back to it. Everybody's journey and everybody's line is not always linear. Sometimes it has some sharp curves in it, but it should all start in the technical career path, in a technical role, to honor the academics that we come out of school with. You can still change to a technical career down the road, but it's much harder to do that if you haven't already started in it. So that would be my little bit of advice and wisdom on what I've seen, and maybe the best way to navigate to that wonderful, I think, summary that Enikő did of the different stages of your career. It's definitely a good place or a good thing to remember. Start technical. If that's where you want to end up someday, start with it.
Okay, so let's move on. Let's talk about branding. So developing a personal brand is often encouraged in leadership development. What are your thoughts on how this applies to technical leadership? Do any of you have a brand?
So I'll jump in here real quick. It's definitely good to have a brand, and it is one of the hardest things, at least for me, that I've done. I mean, my brand is more or less simplifying the complicated through supply chain engineering solutions. It all sounds a little smoke and mirrors, but in the core of what I'm saying, it's almost like that first line on your resume, and what defines you and what got you here is very important. And if you have trouble with it, as I did from a STEM perspective, lean on the other folks in the organization. This is the networking. This is reaching out to mentors that may not be from the technical world to help you create that brand. But yes, you should have one, Michelle. I totally am aligned to having one. It sounds a little goofy sometimes, but it's definitely needed and it's important.
Yeah, I mean, Blair, I couldn't agree with you more. You need to have actually even a brand statement, a reputation statement, whatever you want to call it. The only thing I'll add in what you said is your brand changes as you evolve in your career. And so you should, every few years, you should really take a look at what you have put together as your brand, and also then modify it, because your experiences, your skills change, and you should really change your brand with time, because who I was 20 years ago, or even 30 years ago, or even 10 years ago is not what my brand is today. So take a look at your brand every few years and make the changes that you think are necessary to make, because you've changed, you've evolved.
Well said, Seema.
Yeah, and I want to add to it that your brand is definitely important. That's what you're known for. That's what people say about you and differentiates you. And it includes your digital, your social, your technical eminence. That's why it's important to get certifications and focus on social media as well. And this is how people find you. But I want to add the checkpoint here. If you asked your manager or your peers to describe your brand, would it match your idea, what you think of what's your brand? You have to make that noise and let people around you that what you are known for, so that the ideas match and you're really known for who you are.
Great feedback from everybody. We're going to move on to the next question, and this is going to be, I think, a great question for the audience to listen in on. So, if you're on the path to a technical executive position, getting patents, publishing papers, and giving presentations outside of our companies is usually required for us to get into those roles. So prerequisites, not necessarily something that we're allowed to do after the fact, right? But all the data shows that women are getting less of these types of recognitions than our counterparts. So I'd like to ask, what recommendations do you have for aspiring technical executives to ensure that they're getting the right recognition along the way?
I think the most important thing is not to be shy and just get started. Like, don't listen to your inner imposter syndrome that maybe this idea is not good enough for a patent. Write down your ideas, but at the same time, don't go in the other extreme either. My very first patent was this quite elaborate patent. I had over 10 claims in there. It could have been several smaller focus patents. So my advice is write it down and bring them to perhaps an IP team. Most large companies have dedicated teams who could help you, or bring it to a mentor and just work on it until you could actually go and make the patent happen.
Yeah, I mean, well said, Noko. I mean, the only thing I will add to that is, I think you alluded to this, that seek out coaches and mentors. I mean, fellows are really good people to ask, because that is one of the roles that we have, is to mentor and coach the less experienced, and also less experienced in IP generation or even external publications. So seek a coach and a mentor, and also I will tell you, in this specific case, practice does make it perfect. So the first one is always the most difficult, but as you go and do more and more of these, it does get better and easier. So seek some input from others, like fellows and technical leaders in your organization, and also your IP attorneys, etc., as well.
Yeah, and I'll add, in my own experience, I think a lot of folks don't submit those IP disclosures or presentations for conferences because they just feel like they don't have time. And my response to that, especially recently, has been, this is called career self-care. Right? If we take the initiative, then it will happen. If we don't take the initiative, it's not going to happen. And the reason it's self-care is because it's kind of like brushing your teeth. It's not the most fun task of the day, but if we forget to do it for a year, we're in a world of hurt, right? Same thing with creating your patent write-ups and your IP disclosures and all these other things. We really have to just take that on ourselves and get it done, right? Okay, so team, we're doing great on time here. So just wanted to give you a little heads up about that. We're going to move into our very last two questions. And the second to last question is, what are you doing right now consistent with building your technical and leadership skills? And this is for everybody.
So maybe I'll give it a go here. So this is Michelle, not just right now, but I have been doing this for many years. Every year in my personal or in my goals, I have a set of personal development goals. And they're around 3 different areas. The first one is growth in technology knowledge. The second one is growth in business acumen. And then the third one is growth in leadership skills. And I put very specific goals on how I can achieve all 3 of those every single year. And this is really my way of growing in a continuous way and learning in a continuous way.
That's great feedback, Seema. Anybody else?
I think learning is really
sorry,
important.
Enikő, go ahead.
Sure. I think learning is really important because technology is constantly changing, and not to get distracted by the day-to-day things. And you have to evaluate your network for knowledge gaps, or how is your resume different than last year. So it's a good idea to have sort of a running checklist, and even better if you write it down and sort of think about that, what is it that I'm known for? What are the 2 to 4 things this year? Is different than last year? Is there anything to learn? By this time next year, I want to add these 1 or 2 more things to my toolbox. And it's important to look at how your current project is. Is it challenging you? What ways it's challenging you? What are the new things that you learn? And then the other is to work on your network. Like, you have to think about, okay, I want to have some important new additions to my network. And the next, maybe 3 months, I want to add maybe 2 to 4 people. And how am I making myself visible? What is it that I'm planning to do within the company or outside of the company that contributes to my brand? And basically just think about how your resume would be discernibly different this year than it was last year, so that it allows you that growth. Sorry, Blair.
Yeah, and I agree.
No, that's okay. That was great advice.
You definitely want to establish yourself. Some of the things that with certifications, right? So currently I'm pursuing the systems engineering certification from Enikő, the experienced systems engineering professional from Enikő. I'm also teaching. I've taught classes in systems engineering and airworthiness at Raytheon and also at Lockheed Martin. So I'm looking to teach, and I think with teaching, it challenges you to understand. It challenges your understanding, because no one student is going to understand the material the same way you present it. So you have to be able to tailor your approach so that you're able to effectively reach the student. And also the students are exposed to technology that we weren't exposed to 20 years coming into our career. So you have to be able to meet the student where they are and build them up to where they need to be by the end of the semester. So teaching is a great way to build those skills as well.
And Blair?
Sure. So I'm excited to share this one because it's something that I do every day now. And some of it is because some of these publications and papers out there are mine. So it opened up a world of opportunity for me to say, hey, there's trade journals out there. There's articles. There are places that you can go to simply read. Spend a little bit of time every day just reading in an area that you're interested in. It's amazing when your brain isn't focused right on your work and you're looking and reading about somebody else's sort of same, or, not even the same kind of work sometimes. And your brain will associate what you're reading to give you a leg up at work to help solve a problem or to really bring some innovation into your day. So read, guys, just read.
That's one of those tasks that I consider career self-care. Might not be the funnest thing we have to do, but it is so important. All right, and mine is that I'm continuing to work on developing my emotional intelligence, and I'll leave it at that. So we're gonna move on to my favorite question, and that is, if you could go back in time to the first day of your career, what would you tell yourself?
So I'll jump in. I remember my young self, and I don't know if this resonates with everyone. I was very focused and very serious about what I did in my job, and sometimes forgot to have fun and lighten up the mood, because I think when you're working and you've got your head down and you're working independently, it's great, but to bring everyone else in and bring those ideas and be more of a team player, be less serious, have fun at work. I think, Michelle, that's one of the things that you mentioned at the very beginning. It's super important to be able to be your best self at work. So don't take yourself too seriously, guys.
Yeah, and Blair, I'll just dovetail onto you. What I would say is savor the journey and not chase to the next career destination. Because I tell you, after 34 years of Dow, it just seems like it was just yesterday when I started this wonderful journey.
For me, it's to be intentional, like focus on how you get to be known as someone who gets things done and always keep learning and be very, very helpful and ask for what and how you can contribute to the business. And that will get you ahead.
I think along the lines of bringing your true self to work, it's also recognizing that you are uniquely qualified for the position that you're in. There is no two people who bring the same skill set to the job, and it's value to the organization to have diversity in your skill set. So if you have people who have different backgrounds, in addition to the technical aspects that you may all share because you all went to an ABET accredited school, the organization grows, right? And also just be fearless with your pursuit of excellence.
I love that one, Claudine. I will add that if I could go back to my first day, I would tell myself, you've gotten really good at taking care of your career health and or your educational health at the time and your physical health, but I was a little bit lacking in things like emotional health, mental health, and spiritual health. So I would tell myself to start working on those things because they all contribute ultimately to the health of my career. Okay, so our panel is now winding down. We're done with our Q&A. And I want to take a moment to review the actions that you should now be prepared to take on to advance your technical career. So the first action is to set goals for the year to grow your technical knowledge, your business acumen, and your leadership skills. Expand your network to fill your knowledge gaps and to find your mentors. And to read career self-care, right? I want you guys to commit to set aside time every week to read publications and trade journals and think about the topics that aren't necessarily related to your current project so that you're ready for your next one. I want to issue a reminder to our audience. There's that cool little code on the side of your screen there. That's a QR code. I want you to scan that and go take the survey. That's a link to our survey. We want you to take the survey and go give us some feedback. The next thing I want to do is thank our distinguished panelists, our audience out there, and I want to send a special shout out to Catherine Dorsey, who created and made this panel happen. Catherine is a senior R&D engineering specialist at Dow, and without her, we would certainly not be able to deliver this content to you today. So thank you, Catherine. I want to invite all of you watching to engage with us by connecting with the SWE Technical Careers Affinity Group on LinkedIn. You can also contact all of us on LinkedIn individually as panelists. And finally, the panel would like to thank the Society of Women Engineers for providing this platform for us to communicate the value of the technical career path. Thank you so much.
Thank you.